Hi there.
Hello, this is Chris Hadfield down at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
I was just, my name is Brian Hickman. I'm principal of J.J. Curley Elementary. Great to see you. Great to talk to you.
Great to see you, Brian.
I was joking that the famous words Houston, we have a problem. I hope we don't have to say those.
Yeah, I think it looks like technology is on our side. I see you very clearly, and hopefully you can see and hear me okay.
Excellent. What we have planned, we're gonna sing as somebody singing as a school group for you, and then we've got some of our grade 6 students who've been to space camp in Montreal over back in April. They're going to ask you some questions and have a little conversation, if that's okay.
Oh, that sounds great. All ears, please do.
Thank you very much. Are we ready for our song?
This song is turning bright, will soon be
2 thumbs up from Commander Hadfield. Okay, we're going to move right into the questions. So, Cody, Caden, if you come on up, please. He's got a brother named Cody, and I always call him that.
Hey, congratulations on the song. That sounded really good. Thank you. I congratulate the guitar player and thank you everybody for singing it. It's a really good Canadian song and I'm pleased to have helped write it. Thank you for singing it for us all today. Thank you. And go ahead.
Hello, Miss Hadfield. My name is Katie Joy. My question for you is, what or who inspired you to be an astronaut?
Katie, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I started watching the first people fly in space. And the summer that I was 9 years old was the time the very first 2 people walked on another moon, on our moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon when I was almost 10 years old, 9 years old. And that night, I decided that I wanted to maybe be an astronaut when I grew up. But the hard part was there was no such thing as a Canadian astronaut. It wasn't just hard to be an astronaut. It was impossible. So I'm not sure what you're thinking about you might do when you grow up. But I just decided if someday there's going to be a Canadian astronaut, I'm going to start turning myself into that person. And you are going to turn yourself into whoever you're going to be, whether you want to or not. What you do every day turns yourself into who you're going to be. And I just decided to try and turn myself into an astronaut. And now I've flown in space 50 times and come into the space shuttle. So it's amazing what a little inspiration at 9 years old can do for your whole life. Thanks for the question today.
My name is Peter. My question for you is, what did you crave when you came back to planet Earth?
What did I crave? Well, a few things. Living in space, orbiting the Earth, is a magnificent experience. I mean, it is so rich. You see so much. I saw Newfoundland so many times. It's just so beautiful. But you do miss some things. You miss friends and family. You miss giving your family a hug. You miss fresh food and a variety of food. And you miss the choice of just getting up and going outside and taking the dog for a walk, going for a run. So I really enjoyed the life that I was having on board the space station. But at the same time, I think the thing that I missed the most was just the physical human contact with my family, the ability to be close to other people. It's not like I had a bad time, but I think that's what I craved the most. Candace, yes. In fact, that was really my biggest fear. Because I could train for everything I needed to do. But I have 3 children and my wife, and of course all my brothers and sisters and parents. And I didn't want to have something bad happen to them while I was away, while I couldn't be with family. And it was one of my biggest fears because there wasn't much I could do about it. No matter how hard I tried and prepared, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. And in fact, one of our crew members, Tom Marshburn, while we were in space, Tom's mother died. And it was hard for the crew to deal with, really hard for Tom. She was older and she'd been sick, so it wasn't a huge surprise. But still, it's a very hard thing to deal with. And we talked about it even before we flew. we talked about what are we going to do to help each other if one of us loses a family member. And that helped when Tom's mom died. Fortunately for me, my whole family is still healthy, and when I landed, everybody was still around, and I'm happy and lucky about that. But you're right, James, that's a really thoughtful question. That was one of my biggest fears. And it's the only thing you can do is get closer to your friends that are around you when something bad happens and deal with it as best you can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Felicia Shea. My question for you is, how did you trim your mustache in space?
Felicia, I've had a mustache since I was 16, and I only shaved it off once because everybody in the group was going to have a mustache growing on it. And so I shaved mine off so that I could enter into the mustache growing contest. And when my wife saw me with a mustache, she said, "Go at that as soon as you can. You look better with a mustache." So I've had a mustache my whole life. And the way I normally trim it on her is I get target can, and I hold it right underneath it like this, and I trim my mustache, and all the hairs fall into the garbage can. Well, in space, of course, the hair would fly everywhere. So what I did was I trimmed my mustache right next to an air duct, where the air is to a filter. I held the mirror up close, and I trimmed my mustache with scissors, and all of the hairs of my mustache went into the filter. Then I got a vacuum cleaner and vacuumed up my mustache hair. So it worked out great. It's even better that because it didn't fly around, and it kept it out of everybody else's ways. Worked out fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jillian Harris. Did you ever have an anomaly while in space?
Jillian, we had a constant anomalies while we're in space of bad things happening, of major failures. While we were up there, our space station started losing its cooling ammonia out into space. It was spitting the cooling that keeps the space station alive started leaking out of our space station. And we had to send two of us outside on a spacewalk on 1 day's notice to go fix the space station. One day we lost all communications with Earth for hours and hours. We had a computer problem where the ground couldn't communicate with the space station at all for the better part of the day. And that puts us in a pretty vulnerable position to have no help from the ground for an unplanned long period of time. On board my shuttle flights, I was blinded while I was outside on the spacewalk. There was contamination inside my spacesuit, and it blinded me so that I couldn't see for about a half hour while I was outside on the spacewalk. So we have anomalies, or whatever word you want to choose, all the time. And that's why we train for so long, and prepare for so long, and study, and learn, and get ready, so that when something bad happens, we can make it good, we can fix it, we can survive it and carry it. And the crew that's up there right now is doing exactly that. And that's why it takes so long to train as an astronaut, to be ready for when bad things happen.
Thank you. By the way, nice mustache.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here for you. And how do you keep track of your time in summer 16 times a day?
Well, it's sort of like wintertime where you live. In the wintertime, it's dark a lot. And in the summertime, it's light a lot. And so you end up keeping track of time just using your watch and just using the computers. and you don't go by cycles of the sun. You know, in parts of the world, of course, up north of the Arctic Circle, in the winter it's dark 24 hours a day, and in the summer it's light 24 hours a day. So you can't go on normal cycles. And it's the same on space station. And so on a computer, we have our daily schedule, and there's a red line that moves across the computer inexorably, like Father Time. And it moves across and tells us what we're supposed to be doing all the time, every day. And so we're always living a life of trading off what we're supposed to be doing versus the advancement of time. And that really helps keep track of that. And when it's time to go to sleep, we don't just count on sunset, but we close up all the light in the windows and close the door on our little sleeping station and make it nice and dark so that our body thinks it's nighttime and so that we can sleep. It works okay. Thank you.
Hi, Chris Hadfield. My name is Sarah, and my question for you is, if you love going to space, why did you decide to retire from the space agency?
Well, eventually everybody needs to retire, right? I mean, you can't do the same thing forever, even if you want to. I was a fighter pilot. I flew CF-18s out of Gander and out of Goose Bay to intercept Soviet airplanes off the coast of Newfoundland. It was really interesting work and important work, but you can't be a fighter pilot forever. I was a test pilot. I was a farmer. I was a ski instructor, a downhill ski instructor, and I was an astronaut. And all of those things are just the events that have made up my life so far. But I've been incredibly lucky. I've flown in space 3 times. I've flown different spaceships. I've been to different space stations. I've walked in space. I've commanded a spaceship. So it was just naturally time to do something else with my life. And you need to think of the same thing. You won't be in school forever. What are you going to do next? What is important in your heart? How will you have a good life? And you need to always stop doing something now if you want to start doing something different and new with your life. And that's just the stage that I'm at. It's not that I like flying in space or love flying in space any less. It's just I only have one life to live, and it's time now to do some other things with my life.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ira. My question for you is, do you believe in the
It's a good question between belief and fact. What we believe is often different than reality. And it's easy to believe something. You can believe something just like that. But in order to prove something, in order to do the research and learn something, that takes work and time. And just a few hundred years ago, we believed that we were the center of the universe and that everything revolved around the earth. We thought that the sun and the stars all revolved around the earth, and we were the center of everything. And then when we started actually learning about it and building telescopes and studying it, we realized that we aren't the center of the universe. We revolve around the sun, and then the sun revolves inside a huge galaxy. And our galaxy is just one of thousands or millions of galaxies. In fact, we're almost nothing. We're a little insignificant speck. And that doesn't make you feel very important, but it's the truth. And one of the things that makes us feel important is to think we're the only life in the universe, and that humans are the most advanced life that exists. It makes us feel like we're the center of the universe. But we're not. And so, to me, thinking that there's no life anywhere else in the universe is sort of just a belief. And it's sort of thinking that we're the center of the universe. But we haven't seen or found life yet. But we haven't gone very far. You know, we've just gone to the moon and to Mars. We haven't gone anywhere else really to look. So I think the more stars we find, we've recently found that there's planets around every star. So to think that there's an unlimited number of stars and an unlimited number of planets, I think it's very, very likely that there's life elsewhere in the universe. But we just haven't found it. But I don't think that there are little green men sneaking around and abducting farmers from Arkansas and UFOs all the time. I don't think that's happening either. That's just a belief. I'm convinced that the only reason we haven't found life is because we haven't looked far enough yet. We haven't learned how. But I'm pretty impressed with human life, but I'm convinced there's also life somewhere else out there in the universe. Thank you. It felt two things. It felt good, nice to be home, and it felt awful because I felt so sick. I was so dizzy, and it was like if I'd been spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning, and then suddenly stopped, and it made me just want to fall down and throw up. And so putting my foot back on earth was a really nice step, but at the same time, it made me feel very sick, and it took a while for my body to start feeling normal again, so that I could really enjoy being back on earth. It's good to be home, but it's really taking some adjustment also. Thanks for the question.
I'm Megan Colbert, and my question is, how did you spend your spare time on the ISS?
Let's see. Thanks, Matt, for the question. My spare time, I phoned my family. We had sort of like a Skype phone, so I could call my family. And my kids live in China and Germany and Ireland. And my wife is living in the United States and Canada. So I call my family and my parents and my brothers and sisters. I would look out the window because the whole world is rolling by and take pictures of Earth. The world is beautiful. I mean, beautiful is not a big enough word. The world is stupefying how lovely it is. It's just gorgeous. And so looking out the window was my favorite hobby. And then playing music. I play music in 2 bands on Earth. I play regularly with friends, and I write music and record music. And so naturally, when I got to space, I did the same thing. And so I played lots of music, and I wrote music up there. I recorded a whole CD's worth of original music on the space station. And then I did a couple of big music projects. The one that you guys sang earlier with the Coalition for Music Education. And then, of course, I recorded David Bowie's song, Space Oddities, also. So there wasn't a lot of spare time, but I filled it by doing the things that I love, being with family, making music, and trying to understand the world. Thank you.
My question for you is, considering space trips to Mars, would you rather visit Mars and return, or be a true pioneer and live there permanently for the rest of your life?
David, there are lots of ways to be a pioneer. Pioneering is really just doing something for the first time. And I've already been a pioneer most of my life, as a test pilot and as an engineer and as an astronaut. And You don't have to make a one-way trip to be a pioneer. Pioneering is more like a frame of mind and an urge and a desire to discover new things. As far as going to Mars, Mars is a long way away given the spaceships that we have right now. And what really limits us is engines. We have really primitive engines. It's sort of like in ships of 500 years ago, where all we have are sailing ships. We don't have good navigation. We don't have GPS. We don't have weather satellites. And we don't have steam or diesel engines or nuclear engines. All we have is sail. And it's really hard to travel the whole world if all you have is sail. You can do it, but it's really hard, and it's more dangerous, and it's slow. And that's sort of where we are right now in spaceships. We're just starting to leave Earth because we're just new at it, but we need better engines. And for you, David, to go to Mars, someone needs to invent better engines. Engines that use ion propulsion or something that will let us go faster. And then we'll be able to go to Mars, and it won't be a question of just going one way, but it'll be simpler and therefore safer to go two-way. But if you think about the settlement of Newfoundland, there were people that came and went from Europe 1,000 years ago, I think, with the Vikings, and 500 years ago with the first permanent European explorers. But there are people that came and stayed, like the original Aboriginal people that walked there and stayed. And then a lot of people from Europe that within the last 500 years came across on a one-way pioneer trip and stayed, just like my family did a little over 100 years ago. They came one way and stayed and learned how and tried to figure out how to survive. And it'll be interesting to see what we do for the moon and for Mars as we build better ships to take us there and to bring us back, whether we will have a mixture of people going and coming back and people going to stay. That's probably what will happen, just like happened around the surface of the world. For me, now, at my age, I would want them to go and come back. But for a young man like yourself, who is trying to decide what to do with your life, you know, are you always going to stay in the town you live in right now? Are you going to move somewhere else and stay? Are you going to go and come back? And what opportunities will you take with your life? It's your decision. And it'll be interesting to see how new technology lets us go even further and what people choose to do. But me, I'm retiring from the space business this month. And so I'll be moving back to Canada to stay. Thank you. Far from the Earth. So the distance to the other planets is almost the same. But you can see them a little more clearly because there's no air in the way. You're above the air. So you know how sometimes of course it's raining or there's clouds, but even when the sky is clear, there's still air in the way. It makes stars twinkle and it blocks the view a little bit. So we can see the other planets and even other stars and the Milky Way much more clearly. But the thing that we see so much better is not the other planets, but our planet. You see the Earth so much more clearly, the northern lights and the whole planet every 90 minutes, and the changes on the surface of the planet and the weather and the nature that is our planet. So yes, we see the other planets a little more clearly, but the planet that we truly see in a new, clear way is planet Earth. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joy Clark, and just so you know, you're mine, and I think my mom's here out.
that's a very nice thing of you to say, Jordan. Thank you. And I appreciate the compliment. And please tell your mom and I also. My favorite freeze-dried food. You know, we brought up a Japanese ice cream. And it was an interesting ice cream, and also Italian ice cream. And it's ice cream that's stored in like a freeze-dried container, but you can store it at room temperature. And it stays in a package for a long, long time. And all we had to do was put it in a freezer on board to get it nice and cold. And then when you open it, it was just like regular ice cream. So that was a real treat. It was hard to get to the space station, but it was sort of like a nice icy gelato. So that was really good. But I think you're not going to like my answer. But one of the things you really miss up there is a variety of foods and greens. You don't get greens, you know, like all the beans and peas and celery and lettuce and the leafy vegetables and things. And one of the few greens that really does well up there is spinach. And I made a video about my rehydrated spinach. And it ends up being kind of a horrible looking green lump of stuff, but the flavor is really good. And so you take something that looks inedible, but when you rehydrate it and you mix it up, it ends up tasting a lot like really nice, strong, fresh spinach. So of all the foods I had on board, I think the rehydrated food I like best, strangely enough, was spinach, just like papa. Thank you. Kayla, it's really interesting to look at the sun from space, because if you think about it, when you look at the sun from where you are, the air takes the light of the sun and spreads it. Because if you think about it, the whole sky is blue, right? But where does the light come from? If the light is coming from the sun, how come the rest of the sky is still light in the daytime? It's kind of strange. How does the light get from where the sun is to the other side of the sky? It's because the atmosphere sort of spreads and refracts and diffuses the light of the sun. So that means everything is lit up when you look up. Well, in space, there's no air. So all the sun's light is in one place. And if you look away from the sun, the sky is perfectly black all the time. So it's kind of weird to see the sun from space, because the rest of the sky is inky black, is jet black. And if you take your camera and point it at the sun on Earth and you take a picture, the brightness of the sky smears up your whole picture. But if you take a camera in space and point it near the sun and take a picture, the sun will be really bright, but the rest of the sky will be jet black, and it makes an interesting photo. But you still can't look straight at the sun. In fact, from space it's even worse. There's nothing protecting you from the sun. It is so incredibly bright and hot. It's unbelievable. So I could only look at the sun through a really heavy filter, through really thick sunglasses, or through a camera with a really thick filter. But I let my camera take pictures of the sun, because to see a sunrise or a sunset, and we have 16 of them a day, is so beautiful when you're above the atmosphere. So I looked at those all the time, but I was careful not to hurt my eyes, especially in space, by looking directly at the sun. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Osmond, and I was wondering what took the longest to adjust to when you returned to Earth?
Let's see, Matthew, what took the longest to adjust to? Actually, there's a couple things I'm still not adjusted to, and it's been over a month. And the thing that I really can't do yet is run, for a couple reasons. One, my bones got a little bit weaker, and I don't want to have stress fractures in my leg bones by asking them to take the pounding of running until my bones are strong again. But also, when you run, if you think about it, Matthew, every time your foot hits the ground, it kind of pushes the blood down to your feet. And every single step pushes with the acceleration, it pushes the blood down to your feet. And my body still hasn't completely remembered how to get the blood out of my feet and back up to my heart and back up to my head. And so for those two reasons, I still haven't been running, even though it's been over a month. I'd like to go running because I find running's a nice time to think and get my body exercising at the same time. I'm still just using an elliptical, just where there's no impact, so that my body and my bones are still good. But I think within the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to start running again. And that'll be sort of the last of the things that I used to do regularly that I haven't started doing yet. Everything else feels pretty much normal, and I'm really looking forward. When I move back to Canada here, I move back on Friday, in fact. And we're going to go to, we have a summer cottage, and I'm really looking forward to going for a run on the trails around my summer cottage with my dogs. That'll be fun. Thank you. I hear you, Brian, loud and clear.
We're at the end of our allotted time. Are you able to take a couple more questions?
Just a couple. I have a lot of debriefs today, but I can take a couple more questions, yes.
Okay, we're going to get a couple more people, but while I was picking those couple people, just wanted to ask you where you were when the Maple Leafs came back to Earth.
I used to sit on the couch with my dad and watch the Maple Leafs play when I was growing up. And so I've always loved the Maple Leafs. I think they're a historic and interesting Canadian team. And I was really pleased to see how well they played this year. They were really well coached, and they made it. I mean, they almost beat Boston, and Boston's in the final. So, but during the final game of the series between Toronto and Boston, I was actually getting into my Soyuz spaceship to come back to Earth, and I didn't know how to help the team. So I put on my Maple Leafs t-shirt with my big maple leaf on my chest, and I wore it underneath my spacesuit as I was riding back to Earth. And when I got back, I knew I'd done everything I could to help my team. I was sorry to hear that they didn't win, but I was really pleased to hear how well they played and how they really inspired a lot of people. And wish luck for next time.
Only hope. Okay, we got a couple more questions from some students here. So.
Okay, a couple more.
My question for you is, what did your family think of you orbiting around in space?
Brooklyn, what would it be like if someone in your family was on a space station orbiting the Earth? Just think what that would be like for your family. The CBC would keep coming to your house because they'd want to talk to you to know how you feel now. When you look up at the sky, you'd see a star going across the sky that had somebody you loved in it, which is, no matter where you lived in the world, you could see that. And also, you'd know that somebody in your family was doing something that is really hard, but doing it because it's really important to them, and taking great satisfaction with that. So it's kind of a mixture of emotions, I think, Brooklyn. Pride, and a little bit of fear, and a little bit of embarrassment because of old media, but also a nice thing for the family. And my whole family is very proud, I think, that they were part of it, that my son, Evan, ran all of my social media for me, and he's the one who really got a lot of the world to see what we were doing in space. So my family contributed directly to me being in space. So I think mostly they feel happy with it and proud of what we all did together, and it made them feel more confident as members of the Hadfield family, I think. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. My name is Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
My question is, if you had a chance to bring your family up in space, would you do it?
Absolutely, I sure would, Jacob. Yeah, it's a fun, beautiful experience. And we take one family vacation a year. Because my kids live all around the world, we get together at Christmas. And because they live all around the world, we sometimes go someplace different. Like where my son lives in China, or sometimes Europe, or whatever. We just decide once a year we have to get together, and so we take a family trip. And so imagine one time that family trip could be to orbit the Earth. It would be so much fun. Everybody could play in weightlessness and fly around and float around the space station and see the world and eat spinach together. It would be a fun thing for the family to do. So yes, if there was a way to do that, and eventually there will be a way to do that. Just like you can go flying on Air Canada on St. John's right now and go to England, eventually you'll be able to get on a spaceship and go into space. But it will still be quite wild yet. But I would love to have shared the experience directly with my family, yes. Thanks.
Question is, when you got back in space, was it hard to talk?
Yeah, it was a little bit hard to talk for a couple reasons. One was because I felt like throwing up. And you know when you feel really sick, you don't even want to talk. You know, you just want to sit still and get the world to leave you alone. But also, it was a little bit weird to talk just because I hadn't had gravity on me for a while. So gravity pushing on my chest, where I had to push against gravity to fill up my lungs. And also, I didn't have to hold my head up for 5 months. You know, my head just floated above my body for 5 months. So it felt weird just to hold up my head. And I didn't have to lift the weight of my tongue and my lips for 5 months. So it felt a little weird to talk, absolutely. And also, when I landed, I was in Kazakhstan, just south of Russia. And so most of the talking I did when I first got back was in Russian. And so it was very strange to suddenly to be nauseous, to have to hold my head up, to have to lift up my lips and my tongue, and to have to give all my talks in Russian. So yeah, it was strange to talk when I first got back. Thank you.
Just one more person who could.
Yep. Thank you, Doctor. It's nice of you to say.
How did it feel like when you first went into space?
Donovan, I think you would love it for a couple different reasons. One is the view you get out the window instantly. As soon as you get to space, you can see the whole curve of the world. You can see the surface and then a little bit of the blue atmosphere and then the blackness of the universe. And it's right there beside you, out your window. It's almost like magic. Just a few minutes before, you were sitting on the world, and now there's the whole world in your window. So that's a really cool thing. The second thing is suddenly you're weightless. Suddenly you can fly. Suddenly, if you touch, you can tumble and do a somersault. Your hair floats, and I noticed my wristwatch was floating around in my wrist like a live snake around my wrist. And everything is just floating around in front of you all of a sudden and tumbling and flying. And then the third thing, Donovan, is that it's really hard to get. Really, really hard. And so as soon as you get to space, it's sort of like winning a contest or getting a perfect mark on a really hard exam, where you just suddenly feel really good about the fact that despite all of the complexity and the difficulty and the unlikelihood of it, you are actually there. And that combination of being able to fly, having a superpower, and of seeing the whole world, and of doing something that's really difficult, to me, it just felt great. all 3 times that I went to space. And it's something that if you work towards, no matter what you do with your life, when you arrive something is really special, it really makes you feel great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commander Hadfield. On behalf of our space committee here that sent our students off to Montreal, and Mr. Brian Lowe has been instrumental in the background. He never wants to come forward and arranging all this. He actually arranged the picture back in September. And all our school community really want to thank you for spending your time with us. And Canadian Space Agency as well for making this possible. It's absolutely wonderful. As well, when you start your tour, don't forget Corner Brook. We'll be anxiously awaiting. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, Brian.
So long.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Congratulations on winning the contest and allowing me to kiss the codfish. I appreciate that. And I really hope I get a chance to come visit you in person. It's a big country, and there's all sorts of people asking me to come and talk about how I see life and what I've learned. And I'm really looking forward to traveling everywhere in Canada and talking. But thank you for the time today. There were great questions that you asked me, and I look forward to meeting each of you in person. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.